Welcome in, everyone, to the Crowded Booth here on a Wednesday evening. It's never too early to talk about college football. That's what we're doing as we continue our head coach rankings. Tonight, it's the ACC. I've already tweeted out mine. Will and Ralph are going to go through theirs as well. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk a little college football. We're going to talk about the ACC, and we'll see what happens on tonight's episode here on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Coon.
Well, welcome in, everyone, to the Crowded Booth here on a Wednesday evening. ACC head coach rankings times, and guys, this was honestly a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. I did make it apparent on Monday night when we ranked the SEC coaches that I'd given incomplete to young head coaches, but I see that only one of us, bless me, only one of us gave the right away to the new head coach Jake Dickert in the ACC and putting him at last, kind of incomplete, while others kind of felt that a guy that's never coached in the conference is probably better than some guys that are currently in the conference. So that being said, we're going to go through the ACC rankings. We're going to do it a little bit differently. Each of us is not going to – this is how we're going to do tonight, okay? On Monday night, we got a little long-winded in how we were going about it. So what I'd like to do here is I'd like to, for all of us to be able to just ask questions. So, Will, when yours pop up, Ralph and I, you're taking the stand, and we're going to ask you questions about why this, why that, and you can choose to defend them. Matt says, howdy, fellas. Welcome in, Matt. Matt, don't forget to Buffalo's got a lot of work cut out for them in the Action Dynasty, so don't forget to get that game in tonight. Or we might just continue to move along without you. That being said, fellas, walk me through how difficult this was a little bit for you. Will, you go first with the ACC head coaches, because it's we've said this, like, there's some solid coaches. There's not a lot of wow factors, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hot pile of mid, to be honest. I mean, on top of that, there's 17 of them. I can't tell you how many times when you ask for my list, how many times I had to start my list over because I forgot somebody. And doing it in a text message that's just too much work. You know, some of us have to go to work and have other obligations on top of this. So I didn't have the time or the patience to work on it when I initially started.
Well, it's also too one of those things where the conference has changed a lot in terms of the head coaches this past year. I mean, there's still some guys that are definitely in the hot seat. We'll talk about who's in the hot seat, who can make a big jump here in 2025. But I'm interested to see. Matt does say, I beat Minnesota. Did you advance to week 2 already? No, we're still in week 1. We're giving everybody a chance. Try not to get political on tonight's show. But all things considered, Ralph, how hard was this for you? I mean, I know 8 through 15, you said, I don't really care what happens.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we'll said it perfectly. It's a hot group of mid. I mean, honestly, from the top 5, top 6 really are good coaches, and obviously the top 2. I think we all have the same top 2. It's just because I think we were the best coaches in the conference and 2 of the best coaches in the country. I think we can all agree on those 2. But yeah, you have a lot of guys like these lower tier teams in the ACC just aren't wow factors. They really haven't been, especially the past few years. Especially in the conference lately, is they kind of keep rotating in and out of coaches. And it's just, you can't settle on someone and expect them to be high on the list.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like you look at a lot of these coaches. There's not a ton of guys that have been at the same place for 3 to 4 years.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'll say one. There's one on my list
that made it difficult as well. It's a lot of guys that just trying to keep the ship afloat.
Yeah, I got one on my list that I'll just go ahead and say it's just Tony Elliott. That he don't shower. Tony Elliott to me was a really good hire at first for Virginia.
It made sense.
It just hasn't worked out. I mean, if they're going to win 6 games every year and be happy with it, then that's fine. But I just feel like you could do better. I think he could do better there. So
Go ahead and stop the timer at 5 minutes and 37 seconds. Auburn dodged a bullet.
Fran Brown's, it's been a disaster. They're not very good.
I'm talking about Tony Elliott.
I'm sorry. I saw Johnny Reed's comment. He says
Oh.
Fran Brown top 10. We'll see. We're going to tell you here in a second, Johnny. Yeah, they did. Did they? 537. I like that. Did they dodge a bullet? Because didn't they hire Brian Harsin? Would Tony Elliott have been?
I don't know. I don't know if he'd been worse than Brian.
That's a whole segment. Would Tony Elliott? What
that's the Auburn podcast for Will. Who would have been worse? Who would have been worse than Brian Harsin? We go through the if factors here on the Will Show. Let's cancel this show, please. I already agree.
You gotta love it. Top taking a shower, not taking a shower. I don't know.
Last comment.
Top one at not taking a shower.
I didn't hit that last comment. I almost pulled it up.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to get my graphic on here so I can kind of go through mine as we see it, so I don't have to look at the screen. Okay, so all things considered, ACC ranking all 17 coaches. We're not going to go through every single conference. We're really going to stick to the SEC and the ACC. We'll let Ralph do the Sun Belt and him put Jared Parker last because that's how he feels about it.
No, he won't be last.
Major Applewhite's a better head coach than Jared Parker, and a friend of the show. There's no way in your right mind that you can say that Jared Parker.
I wasn't going to say that. I'm not going to say anything. That's just. Do you want to hear something though? I was talking to my dad today, and he said, "What would it take for you to become an Auburn fan fully again?" And I told him straight up, "What would it take?"
Someone to be the head coach,
and Neil Brown be his OC. I said, "I will." And I said, "What will happen in that situation?" I said, "I'll come back here. I'll get rid of the Troy jersey here, the Troy flag. It will become an Auburn flag, Auburn jersey, and I'll wear a full Auburn jersey with shoulder pads and a helmet from that next show."
Well, you don't have to do that. I mean, I'm a Georgia fan, right? And I have Georgia Tech stuff behind me. Know how that works?
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that's what would happen if that was to be a case. Like that would happen. Just saying.
I got you. Okay. Without further ado, I believe Ralph is up first. Ralph, I already know the question I'm asking you, and I know how you're going. I don't know if you're going to be. It's not going to be a good enough defense for me personally, but
well, guess what? It's my opinion. So who gives a crap what you think?
Oh, Bryce, people are going to take what you said and run with it. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what it is. Put it on the message boards, free and pay walls. All right, here we go. Without further ado. Now, look, we're going to go through the rankings. We're not going to go through them. We will ask questions, and then we'll get to who's on the hot seat, and then, obviously, who can rise. So here we go. We're at Will's first, actually. I wanted to hide Will's. We're going Ralph, number one.
I saw someone at 11 there. I was like, that wasn't mine. I didn't have that low.
Yeah, God, I hope nobody paused it because that's going to be wild. Okay, so here we go.
Well, now they're going to go back and see it. So
they will. Ralph's ACC coaches ranked. All right, Will, you go first. Let's just get this out of the way. You've got Mike Norvell at 12.
Yeah, now, we got the same question, Bryce.
So I'll word this, and Will, you can add on to however you want to word this question. Ralph and I talked a little bit about this before. Ralph, and I put this in Discord about Mike Norvell. For Norvell, you're either looking at what happened last year, and it's such a black eye that you can't get over it because they fell flat on their face, and it was terrible, rightly so. Like, everything was terrible. And you look at that so much to where it ignores what you've done, what he's done before. But 12, like my two biggest questions, Mike Norvell at 12, and I need an explanation of Fran Brown at 5. Jonesy says, let Ralph cook. So those are my two questions, Ralph. Walk me through Norvell at 12.
Are we both on? Are the same question for both of y'all? Why he's at 12?
No, answer. Do
you have another question, Will? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I have another question.
Okay. Why Norvell is at 12? I just think as of right now, going into the season, that the coaches 11 through 1 or 1 through 11 are in a further space to me personally going to this season. After what happened last year with Florida State, I know we're not talking about last year, but with what happened, all the loss you took in the portal, I know you gained a lot, but I just don't know if we can go off what they gained in the portal and expect it to be better, because we thought the same thing was going to happen last year. They lost a lot in the portal because of how everything played out. They lost a lot to the draft, got some good portal players, and it didn't pan out. I can't see the same thing happening again this year and expect a completely 180, 360, or 180 flip. I just can't expect that, because we did it last year. We hyped them up so much to be a 10-win, 11-win team to win the ACC, and then they fell flat on their face in the first 5 weeks. I just don't know if I can personally say that Florida State is if Norvell's got this program in a better spot than what these teams have done this past year, and what they have done in the offseason to get better and to prepare for themselves for this upcoming season.
But you can't really think that it's going to be that bad again, right? I mean,
I don't know. I truly
gotta
don't
be
know.
somewhere in the middle. I mean, you
But
just
is
went
that
from
good
one
enough?
extreme to the other, and you think the law of averages, they're going to probably win 7, 8, maybe 9 games.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, I mean that's 2 extreme seasons. I don't think that's fair. I think Norvell's a much better coach than that.
I'm not saying he's the worst coach or a bad coach. I'm just saying, going into the season, I think there's coaches above him right now that I think are better prepared for this upcoming season.
There's certainly 4 or 5 of them. I don't know about 11.
Well, I see where, like, just walking through Rouse, okay, I see how you could think Duke
y'all
and
can agree
Diaz
with the top 3,
be,
top 4. You understand the top 4 is fine. I know that.
I see why you would have Manny Diaz above him. I can understand that. But Duke making the big splash with Darian Menza, like, there's a lot of excitement for Duke this year. I guess my next question, and then we'll hand it over to you. I just got 2 questions. So Norvell at 12, Fran Brown at 5. Now look, Syracuse had what? They won 10 games last year. They went 10-3. Was that their final record?
Yeah.
Unreal season, great season. You're taking the one season. Okay, here's the pushback.
I have just realized something.
What's that?
I was supposed to have Fran Brown flipped with Doran.
With who?
With Dave Doran. Because I had it. I did not change it when I was doing my list, because I was just right. I had written all the coaches' names out and had it numbered, and I was going back, and I just did not change theirs. I completely realize that now. So that is on me. Well, because like Will said earlier, doing it on the phone, I literally wrote all their names out and put numbers next to it, and then went back and changed everybody.
So you've got Dave Doran at 5.
Yes. I'm sorry.
All right, I've got a question. Why?
Success in this conference. I mean, it's not much, better than some of these coaches right now. I like Dave Doran. I think he's doing what he could do with what they like at NC State. It's not spectacular, but they're not, a team where they have to win 12 games every year to be successful.
I'm not real surprised that you have Dave Doran ranked highly, because you did pick them to win the ACC last year.
You were
high. Was I picked the ACC, or was it my dark horse win ACC? I can't remember.
No, I think you straight up picked them to be the number 4 seed in the playoff.
Either way, freezing cold take.
That was, if we did like that one. Will had UCF winning the Big 12.
And KJ Jefferson at the Heisman ceremony. Don't forget.
I mean, the thing I said this, we were talking about this earlier. Dave Doran, NC State is 23rd in the country. 23rd in the country in wins since 2015. So they've just been consistent. And I think in a conference where you've had so much shuffling, really, really bad teams and really, really good teams, it makes sense why he would be viewed as, and Will, you're right. I mean, Will texted, he said there were whispers of him he get fired. If they have a bad season, he's definitely gone. I agree. Yeah.
I had Clemson, NC State in the championship game, and Clemson winning in the preseason.
Okay.
Close enough.
I had to remind myself. I couldn't remember at all.
Close enough.
No, you're
I just think Or go ahead.
Go ahead.
Your
Bryce.
question. No, your question. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It wasn't a question. I was just going to, there was a comment about Dave Doran. I was going to save it for mine, but I think Dave Doran got a ton of clout for being close to getting the Tennessee job a few years back. I think that helped his reputation a lot, helped boost it a lot. And then I think it kind of created a better perception of him than what I think the perception is.
Yeah.
But I mean, being linked for a job like Tennessee, I mean, you have to be a good coach.
You're doing something right.
Right.
With the pedigree that Tennessee has, and you're in contention for a coach with Josh Heupel and
dude, Derek Dooley.
Derek Dooley, the orange pants, man. Can you imagine Doran going there with orange pants on?
I don't know. I mean, I think Doran is the definition of just like a good coach. I don't think they had a bad year this past year, and really, honestly, too, you go back and look at it. I mean, a crazy quarterback situation. I mean, Grayson McCall gets concussed and can't play anymore. They throw the true freshman who was I think they have a lot to build off of with that kid.
He just work on his arm. If he can pass better, he's a good quarterback. He runs very well.
Yeah. So I mean,
they're just a team. I just feel like every year, it's like you go back 3 years ago when they played Clemson on the road and beat them in an upset game, and he was just kind of like, you can't count us out. He had that interview at postgame where he said something. I can't remember what he said, but I just remember him saying it's like, we're a good team. They beat them like 24-3 or 24-7, something like that. If I remember correctly. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that game I just kind of realized like this guy doesn't really have the greatest team in the world, but he's rolling out there with who he's got and coaches him very well. If I could find that game.
Yeah. Well, any other questions with this? I mean, the Belichick one is one we'll probably all ask. I mean, it's such a hard thing. I mean, you have to respect the fact that he's one of the greatest football coaches ever.
When's the last time he coached college football?
He never has he?
I don't know. I'm honestly just asking because I have no earthly idea.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. You have to respect the fact that he's one of the greatest football coaches ever, so it has to mean something. But obviously, that he's the definition of incomplete. Like, I think that you have to respect the fact that he knows how to coach, but we have no clue what it looks like in today's climate of college football.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a success. It could be an utter failure. It could just be an average season and just kind of, or up and down season like it was with Matt Brown. Really high hopes and then go out there and play for 6 weeks of great football, then crash. It's the thing about Belichick. I just don't know where to go with it. I truly don't. I don't know who he's gonna have it. At quarterback. I don't know who he's going to have prepared for the season. Isn't
it Max Johnson? Isn't he back for another year?
Is he?
I think so.
Good grief. So. Get a job. I just don't know where to put him at. I just I floated him around. I just didn't want to put him too low where it's like that's just uncalled for. But he's entering a new realm of football for him with the whole recruiting. Yeah. With a new realm of recruiting is an issue. And, he's got to. Everyone's been joking about him doing in-home visits, which is going to be quite funny. One day. But I think he can do good. And we'll ask the question later about coaches who can jump up this list. He's like a hot take for me on that.
Well, and two, I mean, I will say this: I think that we do know, based off of last year, like Steve Belichick's a good DC. He's solid. I mean, he had Washington.
When it comes to a guy who's coaching just a defense or an offense, I feel like they can go to about any level and be successful. If you're focusing on just defense
in
only, you're not having. Yeah, I mean, you bring a scheme over, you can you've been working on this for the last 5 or 6 years. You've been coaching under other coaches, for years. You learned a lot. Head coaching is a whole different story. You're managing a whole entire roster and other coaches in the game, and everything's a little more difficult. But
which I don't think you were on this live show, but Will and I talked about this. And Will, you can offer any thoughts on the Belichick thing. It's like if it's the Bill Belichick that you read about in the biographies, where in terms of like roster management, then UNC hit. If it's the one that can manage that roster the last 2 or 3 years in New England, that's a massive concern of just how you put together your roster and how you build it out.
Yeah, And to answer your question about, you mentioned earlier about having Jake Dickert at bottom. I just don't know anything about him. I don't know what he's got.
No, that's fair. I mean, I would say incomplete.
It's that, and he's inheriting a team with his nothing right now.
Will and I don't have Dickert at 17, and I think I don't want to
That's
speak
fine.
for Will, but I think it's because we both think the coaches below him are that bad. I think it has nothing to do with Dickert. I think it has.
And then, I mean, like, if we're doing incomplete coaches, people are like, why isn't Belichick down there? Well, Belichick's had the pedigree of his past in the NFL, and
yeah, it's why it has to mean something. Like it has to mean something.
He's never coached a college game in his life, more than I don't think.
Yeah,
but the dude's coached for so long and was successful for a very long time and won many championships at a pro level and get some incredible talent. So I'm okay with putting Belichick at 13. Could he be higher? Possibly. Could be lower? Possibly. That was just honestly, I wish I could just put him in the middle and just not have a number next to him.
Just put him off the side, like
just don't float up and down all year. He just kind of rotates around the circle.
Will, any more questions?
None from me.
All right, that's Ralph's. Here we go. Oh boy,
I'm scared. I truly am scared.
Why are you scared? What's scary about this list?
Okay, well, I want to ask you this softball, easy question. You just believe that Troy Taylor's just not a good coach. Essentially, Troy Taylor's worse than what Jake Dickert might even be.
Yeah, well, I mean, both of them were in the Pac-12 for more than a year. So kind of basing it off that, I know Dickert, head coach for a few years at Washington State. Taylor, been around Stanford for a little while, but coming up from the FCS level, he hasn't shown me much. And I know his roster has been very subpar.
Yeah.
And Stanford kind of slow into the new game that is roster management. I mean, they had to go hire Andrew Luck to be their GM. And, I think that can have some positive impact, but, we'll just have to wait and see. But, just from them being in a conference at the same time, even if it was just for a year, I think officially just 1 year, that's what I'm basing that off of.
Stanford's such a weird job. I mean, we talked about this last year, Will. It's just weird, and it doesn't feel like a natural fit for football in terms of what they want to do.
I don't think it's a fit for the ACC.
Aside from the
ACC touts academics, but I think Stanford's higher than all of them. I mean, so it's an outlier even in the academic argument.
I'm gonna toss one, and it's not really a softball question. It's really just because I have to ask. Will, you have Wilcox at 7?
I do.
Is that because
he watched it, man?
Is that because he hired Brian Harsin, or is that because of something else?
Honestly, he would have been 5 or 6 if he didn't hire Brian Harsin to be his offensive coordinator. No, I mean, Justin Wilcox, not just because Auburn played Cal the last 2 years, and I, got to watch those games closely, kind of following him a bit more and digging more into his career. I think Justin Wilcox is a really good coach. He was a very, very highly respected defensive coordinator before he got this head job. Coordinated the Wisconsin defenses that were, playing for a Rose Bowl, playing for Big Ten titles year in, year out in the early mid 2010s. His Achilles heel at Cal, though, has been they play up to their opponents and they also play down to their opponents, which is a theme for the ACC and a theme in my eyes for a lot of these coaches on this list. So that's why I have him at 7. I think he's a really good coach. I think not a lot of people know a lot about him because he's at Cal, being isolated on the West Coast. But I like Wilcox a lot.
Wilcox does a lot with a little too, right? I mean, they're not they
weren't a spectacular team last year with at Cal, but they were in fights.
Was a great quarterback.
I think yeah. I mean, and look, he got picked up. He's at what, Indiana now?
Yeah.
So he's
Indiana.
going to be the starting quarterback in Indiana. And you had a running back that wasn't healthy all year. I think you just said this, and Jay Knott, who
Yep.
top 3 running back in the conference.
I mean, honestly, if he was healthy, he'd probably be a top 10 running back in the country.
He's very, very good.
Yeah, he's very good.
Okay,
J-Knott's very
so
good.
I wanted to ask you, Fran Brown at 14. Obviously, you liked what they did. I mean, everyone has to like what they did. I mean, wins 10 games at Syracuse, a lot of momentum and juice in a program that had just kind of become stale, I think is the best word to put it. Just whatever. Caught lightning in a bottle, I felt like, with Kyle McCord. They obviously have a lot to replace, and the schedule's way tougher. So talking about Fran Brown, I guess my big question is Brent Pry, Fran Brown. I mean, Brent Pry's been at Virginia Tech longer. They soured big time last year on what they wanted to do. So maybe, I mean, I don't know how much thought you maybe put into that, but just in general, just what you think.
Longevity played a factor in ranking those two. I think Brent Pry has done a solid job, albeit pretty lackluster. He's gotten some good talent there at places. He just hasn't gotten the talent across the roster to really win big there. Kind of reviving another stale program. Had gone stale under Justin Fuente. And Fran Brown, it was year one. He was a dynamo in the portal last year. I think this year's portal cycle was not as good. So that worries me. Obviously, the high school recruiting is trending up, but it's really just 1 year, and it's his first head coaching job. I mean, there's not a ton to go off other than last year, and last year was a great year. But for me, the jury is still out to see if he can keep it going.
Big question for them is going to be quarterback this year. I know we're going to talk about it, but I mean, they've got the kid that was actually committed to Georgia Tech at one point. I don't know if he's even still there. I played at FPD in Macon. Ricky Collins, who was at LSU, and then they added one more guy. And I know it's slipping from who they brought.
They didn't bring in another Kyle McCord.
Yeah, no, I mean, like Kyle McCord elevated that team pretty high. I'll ask you what the Georgia Tech fans are thinking, so I can go ahead and clip this and get it on social media. Brent Key at 11. Okay, so I think here's where I'll sit with this. I've got Brent Key higher than 11, but not as high as Ralph. I can't remember where Ralph.
I think you and Ralph have
my 8.
Same spot.
Okay, so we talked about Belichick, right? And one thing that I'm seeing in your rankings ahead of Brent Key, and maybe what keeps him from being higher, is a longevity aspect with what you talked about, Brent Pry, and then just kind of the pedigree. Yeah, they're not lighting the world on fire. They're not making playoffs, but they've been doing it for a little bit longer. And for you, that maybe commands a little more respect.
Yeah, I mean, I can just really – I don't have a ton to say negatively about Brent Key and why he's number 11. It's not a ton of negatives. You talk about longevity. He's obviously still learning on the job. First head coaching job. He's had a really good 2.5 years. He's brought a ton of energy back into this Georgia Tech program. His recruiting is picking up. He's doing a lot of good things. But you look at the guys ahead of him. Bill Belichick, don't have to say anything. Pat Narduzzi, he's won the ACC. And been at Pitt a long time. Bill O'Brien, say what you want about his roster management in the NFL, but he's already turned over that Boston College roster pretty darn well. It's better than when he got there. Got the NFL pedigree, and it's kind of how it is up and down the list. Guys that have been there and done that. Lashley, I know, is a newer name onto the list, but I mean, he played for the ACC title last year. Went down to the final second, and could have won the ACC last year. So, it's not negative on Brent Key. It's just he hasn't accomplished what the guys ahead of him have accomplished, or done it for as long. And you can say, well, why do you have Wilcox there? He hasn't won anything. Wilcox has been at Cal for 6-7 seasons, and
something like that. Yeah,
I mean, he's gotten them to bowl games, which is good for Cal. Just got to keep digging, keep climbing the ladder, and Brent Key's certainly on his way there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the argument, it could be made and completely valid that he could be over Belichick in terms of what they've done at the college level. That's fine. I will tell you that there's regardless, and I know a portion of the people watching this show have one viewpoint of way they look at things, and that's fine. But what I'm saying is, like, if you really take a step back, you could build an argument where both parties could walk away and say, you know what, I don't agree, but I understand. Like, there's valid points made why those guys are in front of Brent Key. I mean, look, Pat Narduzzi and Pitt, and I think someone said it earlier, they were rolling last year. Like, Eli Holstein gets hurt. And things kind of just fall off the saddle, but they were 7-0 going into that SMU game with a legitimate talk about, like, hey, could they sneak in the 12-team playoff? And people might want to laugh about that because they just look at the end of the season record, but like that was a conversation we were having. So, I mean, I'm cool with that. Like, I mean, I understand that. I think it's the definition of what we're talking about, right? Like, you just have a lot of coaches where you've got, like, okay, Pat Narduzzi's won an ACC title in a weird year, but Pitt hasn't lit the world on fire outside of that, so that's why the argument we had. Bill O'Brien, okay, Justin Wilcox has just been kind of stable at Cal, but hasn't lit the world on fire, so there's the kind of things. I'll also tell you this, Brent Key hasn't lit the world on fire at Georgia Tech. You know, so it's, if Brent Key had 2 8+ win seasons, then we're talking about something different.
Yeah, I mean, if he wins, has 2 8-win seasons, he's number 7. No doubt. I mean, and then we're talking about, is he better than Manny Diaz? That's the question. And Manny Diaz at 6, I mean, I think we all agree, kind of unfairly fired by Miami. And, last year had a really good year for Duke. And
he got the program looking fun, I mean, at least.
Yeah. It goes out and gets
Darian Menza,
one of the best quarterbacks in the portal. Yeah. No, I'm with you there. I mean, and I'm with you there. I think that, I mean, I don't have really any other issues with this. I'll go to mine here, and then we can talk about who's on the hot seat. So here's mine. There is that with what it is. I'll just kind of get this out of the way with Troy Taylor. I think, I mean, I don't hate Troy Taylor at Stanford. I just don't think he's a very good football coach. I think it's a really weird thing. I actually think Tony Elliott's going to get fired this year. I just don't think they're there. Virginia's, for ACC fans, Virginia should be so much better as a state school. They got a lot of money. And I don't mean like competing for national titles, but they should be in the conversation to go to Charlotte and with what their potential is. And it's kind of sad. Like, that Virginia program is just so stale. So I actually think Dickert, no matter what happens in year 1 at Wake Forest, I think he's a better option than those two guys. So that's the only thing I'll say about it. Yeah, fellas, it's what you got? What you got for me?
Cristobal at 5.
Okay, so where did you have Cristobal at 3, and then Ralph at 3? So y'all both had 3. All right, so here's my reasoning. I think I've said this multiple times. I love Jeff Brom. Like, I think Jeff Brom is a really, really good football coach. The one thing I'm going to give him is that he's made an ACC title. So that's the leg up that I'm going to give him, and I think just for me with Brom is that, are you playing dangerously with the portal game? Sure, maybe you are. But to their credit, he is hit with it with the guy in Jack Plummer, who I don't think any 3 of us think is a dynamic threat, but worked in that system. Tyler Shuck, we had the chance to talk to him. I had a chance to talk to him. This past year was a great conversation. Slung the ball around. I just think that he plays a pretty solid brand of football, maybe a little more consistent than Miami has under Mario Cristobal. Now, the outlook of the program or the potential, I'm with you, Will. Mario Cristobal's probably got the 2nd or 3rd best potential, maybe 1st, if you really want to talk about money, dollar signs, and stuff like that in terms of the ACC. And then I guess I'll answer the Norvell over Cristobal. Was that kind of the second part? Did you want to know? Or I think, where'd you have him? You had him flipped. Okay. For me, just my thing with Norvell at 4 is, like kind of Ralph said about the 1 year. It's awful. Like, it was terrible. And it has changed the viewpoint of the program for so many people, including someone like Ralph. While I agree, I'm going to pander to Will here a little bit. I really like the hire of Gus Malzahn as his OC, because I think knowing Gus and knowing it alleviates a little bit of the play calling aspect for him, where, look, they had a guy, who's at LSU now, and Alex Atkins, calling plays. Okay. Like, Alex Atkins wasn't really calling plays, folks. Like that's not, he wasn't really, it's Mike Norvell. So we know Gus is not coming in there just to write on a chalkboard. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be the guy directing that offense. So I kind of like that. And then just what they've been able to do, man. I mean, I can't, if I'm going to hate on the year 2024, I can't say, well, 2023 doesn't matter. It's probably somewhere in between. So that's just where I feel about it. And then Mario Cristobal's had some boneheaded stuff happen. And most notably, Georgia Tech remembers that. You know, just so very close would be my, very close, I would say, with that. Any other comments, questions?
Ralph, did you have one?
So Will and I have Wilcox a little higher.
Yeah, you had it. Let's go back. Will has him at 7. You
I
have
have
him
him
at 10, and I've got him at what, 12? Yeah.
So are you just viewing him as just, they play, like Will said, they play up to their opponents, but also play down against teams? Or are you just saying it's just because it's too early to tell for him what their success could be, or do you just think you're just not ready to put them higher than everyone else on that list?
Well, like Will said, I mean, this is Wilcox. This will be his 8th year at Cal, or 7th. When you said 7, has he been there 7 years, or this will be his 8th year? I can't remember. He's been at Cal for a decent amount of time. We know that.
I'm looking it up.
So with that aspect of it, for me with Wilcox, it's more of what do you like?
8 years.
What are you
He's
gonna
going into year 9.
He's going into year 9. Okay, year 9 at Cal. So he's pretty, Ralph, I'd say, established with what he is at Cal, right? Like, I don't think he's going to embarrass the program. Like I'll say this. Every person behind him, I believe, could embarrass their institution. That's why he's there.
Oh, I completely agree. Well, yeah, so, I agree with most of that.
So yeah, I mean, sorry, I was just going to say Wilcox is so difficult to rank because you think about Cal, they're not a powerhouse. You look at just his win-loss record; he's got 1 winning season, 8-5 in 2019. They won the Red Box Bowl. That's a throwback.
That's not a real.
But he's been to 4 bowl games, and I mean at Cal, that's a pretty big accomplishment. He finally had a quarterback, and then he gets poached out of the portal. Like, I mean,
but he also has to understand that's going to happen there now. That's what's going to happen at schools like Cal and even Indiana. Like, I know he lost his quarterback to Indiana, but going further in college football for him coaching, he's going to. I'm surprised Jay Knott didn't hit the portal. Like that to me.
I think if he would have been healthy, he would have been gone.
I still think. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks who play 2 games and go to the portal, and hit the portal and go somewhere next year. UNLV's quarterback played 3 games, 4 games for them, and hit the portal immediately. I know it's a whole different situation, but I mean, we know what Jay Knott can do healthy. Someone would have definitely snatched him up if they had a chance to.
Is Jay Knott coming back?
I think he is. Is he not? I thought he's only a sophomore this year.
I have no clue. But to what you were saying, Will, about Wilcox, he's hard to rate. They went 6-7 this past year. I like him.
Jay Knott is coming back.
Okay, Jay Knott is coming back. So, yeah, you got your bell cow running back, back. I like Wilcox. I just we were talking text about this. I think Dave Doran has had a higher floor, if that makes sense, than what Wilcox has now. Last season was not good, and like I said, another 4-8 season, and he could be out the door because NC State has grown. Their expectations as a program has grown to where we're not just looking to go to a bowl game. We want to get to Charlotte, and we've been on the precipice of that a couple of times. I think, and I'll say this: I don't know how good Syracuse is going to be this year. But I just think in terms of the branding and understanding the excitement level around the program, I know that doesn't win you games, but it does get Jimmys and Joes sometimes. I think that I think Syracuse is in a better spot under Fran Brown than Cal is under Justin Wilcox in terms of the potential. I like Bill O'Brien, but yeah, that's my last one. I've got a comment I wanted to make, but if you guys please ask me another question if you want, Will or Ralph.
I'm good, I think.
I'm good.
Okay. I wanted one last comment.
I'm sorry. I just realized we said they were irrelevant last year. So why do you have them at 6?
Pat Narduzzi, because Eli Holstein was a dude for them this past year.
Just making sure.
They're good, and he's a good coach.
Yeah.
Pitt's not a power.
I just
yeah.
wanted to bring it up. We talked about, we were going to talk about him last year, and they ended up being really good.
I'm going to tell you the conversation that's going to happen all year, and they're going to be, I think, and this is just my thought.
Mhm.
These two coaches are going to be put in similar spots because they're at programs with similar ideals about football and academics. And it's 7 and 8. It's Manny Diaz and Brent Key. I put Manny Diaz, and you kind of alluded to this in your rankings because I believe you had Diaz. Yeah, you had Diaz at 6.
Mm-hmm.
For me, with Manny, if you believed in your heart that he was fired at Miami because he was a bad head coach, I don't know what to tell you. They felt they had an opportunity. That's why they wanted to go do that. He wasn't bad there.
No.
I think he's a good football coach. I think that we obviously saw what he did at Penn State with the defensive coordinator position and what he was able to do recruiting. And the easy cop-out answer to that is going to be, well, look at the logo. And I think that's just a casual take, just when you don't know what you're talking about type of stuff. But in all seriousness, I think Diaz and Key are going to be linked because even though Brent Key has beaten Manny Diaz, I think Diaz's track record speaks for itself. And I'll also add to this too, I think that there is an equal level of excitement for both programs heading into 2025 and raised expectations.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, once again, we joked about this on Monday. If we were doing like percentage points, it might be like 0.025 in terms of that. So I think Manny's a solid ACC coach. That's what I think he is. And I think Brent Key, I will say this, in the national landscape of college football up to this point, I think Brent Key has proven to be a average to at times good head coach. I think there's a lot that left to be desired in terms of the in-game management of stuff. We obviously saw that in Athens this past year. And there doesn't mean that's what he's going to be forever. It's just he's in year 3 of being a head coach. And that you have to be that where Manny Diaz has a little bit longer of a runway for it. And so, and I would say that every single person in front of him, like, they've just got a little bit more of a track record. So for the Tech fans seeing that, I like that. But I'll tell you this, 7 to 9 for me was really hard. Diaz, Key, Bill O'Brien, I think they're all in that same vein of where it's like, we'll kind of see what happens. And Matt says Manny is 21 and 12 in the ACC. No, that's not bad. That's not bad
He
at all.
got fired for being a bad coach.
Yeah. No, you're right. So
we all know why he got fired and let go. It was obvious.
Yeah, you're right. All right. That is our ACC rankings. We're going to, here in just 1 second, get to our who's on the hot seat and who could rise here in 2025. But we're going to talk to our friends at Underdog before we do that. Tired of the old, outdated way of playing fantasy? It's time to try Underdog Fantasy. If you want to make some picks on your favorite sports, check out Underdog Fantasy Pick'em game, where you choose higher or lower on between 2 to 8 players, and you can win up to 1,000 times your initial entry. Make sure to use code CROWDED when you sign up, so you can get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. Think you know ball better than us? Don't miss out on this great offer and compete against the crew to showcase your knowledge today. All right, back here on the Crowded booth, like we talked about, check out Underdog Fantasy, college basketball in full swing. A big one this weekend, Will, as it's the Iron Bowl on the court edition, number 1 versus number 2. And I don't know what you can take in that, but head over to the app and use that code CROWDED to get in on the action. Okay, let's take a look here. We did this on Monday. I want to end the show with this here tonight. Let's start, and this might be pretty easy. Who's on the hot seat in the ACC? I'm going to go ahead and throw mine out there. I think it's Tony Elliott. And I think Tony Elliott has the hottest seat, not just one of the hottest seats in the ACC, but hottest seats in America. Because I think there's an expectation for Virginia to be better at football than they have been. And unless you get to 6 or 7 wins, maybe more, I don't see a reason for keeping him around. I feel like the Tony Elliott, I feel like Tony Elliott's, the system, the experiment in Charlottesville has run its course. So that I'm going Tony Elliott with mine. Will, do you have a different one? Or are you sitting in that same vein? Where are you rolling?
Dave Doran. I think last year was very disappointing, very much below expectations. There were rumblings of considering making a change, and normally when there's rumblings, you got to come out and perform the next year or you will be gone. So Dave Doran, he's one of those guys. I think he's raised the expectation. Kind of like Mark Stoops at Kentucky, he's raised the expectations almost to where he can't sustain them, which is unfortunate because he is a good coach. But that happens at places sometimes.
I'm with you. I mean, he's kind of hit a ceiling there, right? So,
yeah.
All right, Ralph, who's on the hot seat for you?
I mean, I agree with Tony Elliott. I like what Will said about Dave Doran. Troy Taylor obviously sounds like an obvious one, but with 6 wins only at Stanford in 3 years, I'm gonna go Brent Pry. I have not been very high on Brent Pry since he got there.
Not moved.
No, not moved at all. We thought last year going into the season, bringing all those transfers in and having a lot of returning starters come back, that they would be a very, fun team to watch, very good team to watch. And
timeout. I mean, Kyron Drones doesn't average 5 yards a carry, so that first off was a complete miss by us. But yes, to your point,
not good.
Not moved. I just Brent Pry to me, I think the expectations last year were not met. I felt like they were in some games they probably should have won. I don't think he coached some of his best games. And going forward, I just don't know what Virginia Tech's expecting to do this year. I definitely don't see him competing for a conference championship this year, but I can see, a decent bowl game and 8-win seasons what they want to shoot for. And I don't know if they can do that this year.
Brent Pry, I mean, it's another thing. Like both Virginia schools are expected to be better, right? And Virginia Tech, while I think Virginia Tech low-key kind of got bailed out by how bad FSU was, because everyone paid attention to the 2-10 record. No one paid attention to the fact that Virginia Tech was the dark horse contender for a lot of people for the playoff and just tripped over themselves constantly. Lost to Vanderbilt, which obviously isn't one of those things. So
wasn't a bad loss.
Yeah, no, I'm right. I like that. All right, go ahead.
There's a name I want to say, but
you won't do it.
I won't do it. Based on per sources, he's not on the hot seat, and it would take a lot. So,
wait 1 second. Who are you talking about?
Don't worry about it. Per sources.
Matt wants you to do it. Matt, donate right now. Give us a super chat and we'll do it. How about that?
Yeah.
Per sources, it'll take a lot. It would take a lot for him just to get on the hot seat.
I don't really know. I mean, are we talking about the guy we all think you're talking about, or were you just saying something?
I put it in the chat. I think I'm right.
You're right. You're right.
Well, I mean, per some people.
Oh my God. You gotta do it, Will.
That's going directly to Will's pocket, though. Directly to Will's pocket, by the way.
Hold on. Hold on. No, wrong one. Sorry. Say it. Say it, Will.
Brent Key. Just in the sense that, last season, such a bad taste in your mouth. Can you get up off the mat after tough losses against Georgia, tough loss in the Birmingham Bowl? But like I said, per sources, it would take a lot. So I don't expect it to happen, but it would take a lot.
Matt sent $10 for something he already knew.
Look, the schedule lightens up.
We've seen 2 gut-wrenching losses at the end of the season carry over into the next season. We've seen it happen.
That's true. That is true. All right, that's the hot seat.
There's no Bowling Green on the schedule this year, though, right? So should be okay.
Should be okay. No MAC teams, I think, made the schedule this year. So the MACtion's not been happy. No MACtion action. What can I say? I like wasting my money, Matt. All right, who takes the jump? Who makes a leap on your board? Ralph, lead us off. Who's a guy that really feel like, I know you kind of teased it earlier. I don't know if you're sticking with that guy.
I teased earlier with Bill Belichick. I just think it's kind of like a sleeper one for me. I think if it works out for North Carolina, it's a smart move, and he can move up, 6 spots in my list if they have a successful season. And for them, successful is 8 to 9 wins this year in his first year, in my opinion. But on my list, it's Manny Diaz this year.
Ooh.
I really think this is year 2 of Manny Diaz. You got the quarterback now. You got Darian Mensah. You brought in some other guys. You recruited for a year. You got some guys who recruited for 2 years now. Sorry. I think this is Manny Diaz's chance to make this a better season for him and for Duke going forward. Obviously, Elko, what he did there was incredible for 2 years, and then takes his job that we all knew he was going to take eventually. But Manny Diaz, I think this is where he'll be for a little bit longer, and I think he can have some pretty good success going forward. And I think this is where I got to see it for him.
So Duke signed this running back out of Mandeville, Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
This kid had it's the brother. His name's Nate Shepard. He's the brother of Will Shepard, who played at Vandy. Went to Colorado. This kid had over 26,000 all-purpose yards in the state of Louisiana this past year. But he's a little bit undersized. He's only 5'10", 175.
Wait. How many all-purpose yards?
Over 2,700. I'm not 27,000. That would have been even more ridiculous.
About to say.
Yeah, 2,700 all-purpose yards.
Crazy.
And he had like 40-something rushing touchdowns, something crazy. So, look, I mean, I like Manny Diaz a lot. I like what he does at Duke. They're going for it, right? Like they've got their guy. They've got the guy at quarterback. They feel like they're going to have a solid defense. Can they have weapons around them? Arguably, that was their problem this year. Malik Murphy, while he did have some potential to him, wasn't, I think, as complete of a quarterback as they wanted. And
he's a great defensive mind. I think his defense is always good. Even when he was at Miami, the defense was really good there. The offense obviously wasn't, but I think when he has a Duke going this year, I think the defense could be really good. I'm not going to say elite because I wouldn't consider that defense elite right now. But this is the year I think Diaz could make a big jump. Also, Bill Belichick though. So
I like it. All right, Will, where are you rolling with? Who's a big riser on your list?
good Lord, I'm scared for this answer.
I feel like it's low hanging fruit, but I'm going back to a familiar name, Brent Key. I mean, that's you're laughing, but that's kind of.
I think he's laughing at something else.
He's on the back side, the back half of my list. I think it's going to be hard for people on the top half of my list to really move up. He's right there. He's on the cusp. I think, and then the other one, kind of easy one, Fran Brown, just maybe because I have him ranked so low.
Yeah.
Oh, my $10.
No.
I love that. No McDonald's for you. Number one.
Send 20 and we'll send 10 back.
Number one, Stank Brown. Yeah, I like it. BOGO deal. All right, so who takes a jump for me? I like what you said, Will, about Fran Brown is you mentioned earlier just about the excitement level. I think if they can somehow get to like 8 or 9 wins again, like that's the schedule is harder this year. And if he can do that and he finds a quarterback of the future, you have to be excited about where that program can go. They have a really solid coaching staff. Like Elijah Robinson's their DC, and that guy can recruit. Like he is a very, very good recruiter. Brent Key for me is another guy, like you mentioned, could rise up the charts. I will also, I'm also going to throw a name in here, and I'm going to go with Brent Pry, because I think Pry is a guy that if he doesn't rise, then he's getting fired. Like I've got him at I got him at 13th best coach in the ACC, and I think that if he does not, if they're not threatening to go to the ACC title game in November, like why would you keep him? Because that's what your goal is, and it'd be year 4 for him. I don't see it. So that's where I'm rolling with that. But good stuff. Good stuff. We will go through our top 10 coaches in the country on Monday evening. Will any ACC coaches be in the mix? I think I'll at least have one.
Maybe 2.
I'll say this.
2.
Not 3.
I'll say this though, and I know people hate on him. We didn't really talk about him, but I think Will and I gained a really big appreciation for this when we were in Charlotte. Dabo Swinney takes a lot of flack, but Dabo Swinney is a dang good football coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there'll be jokes pointed at this, like he's a good leader. Now people may like it might not vibe with that, but that team last year, fellas, had no business even getting to Charlotte. They backed their way in.
Made a good run at Texas too.
Way.
Yeah, made a good run at Texas. They really gave them what they could, and obviously Texas overpowered it. But Klubnik coming back, dude, like
Klubnik was. Y'all see Klubnik's preseason All-American.
Yeah, he should.
And I'll tell you right now, he's going to score a big win over LSU in Week 1. I'm calling that one. I don't think LSU until Brian Kelly can win a season opener in Baton Rouge. I'm not going to say they're going to
check bounced.
It did.
Well, the good thing is there's no major issues on defense for LSU this year.
Oh boy, well that's all
I
the
like
time
that.
for tonight. That's we all have for
like
tonight. But
that,
that was he's a really good football coach. We didn't really talk about him. And Rhett Lashley does a fantastic job at SMU, and they're not a one-hit wonder. I'm not saying they're not going to make book it. I'm not saying they're going to make Charlotte again. They will be in and around the conversation. Why? Because their donor base and that program has to be. I think that's the difference, and we can take it here just for a couple more minutes. I don't think people realize the ACC is a conference where I think you have a bunch of people who like to act like they care. You have people who act like they care, and there's people who have to care about it. SMU is in that vein, and I think that's one big reason why they'll constantly be in the conversation, because whether it's Rhett at the helm or anybody at the helm, they will consistently pay and put up the support, both monetarily, both fan base, whatever it takes to be in that conversations. And frankly, in this conference, there's some teams that just won't do that. There's a limit for them. And so that's kind of what I have for that. So a lot of good stuff. So Ralph Leary, Will Mannis, my name is Bryce Kuhn. We will catch you next time, Monday night, ranking the top 10 coaches. And then we will get into, yes, it's going to be fun, quarterback rankings and team tiers, and then into spring football, baby. And it'll be fun. Big stuff, by the way, happening in April. So you're not going to want to miss it.
Gargantuan.
We might even live stream from Topgolf. Who knows? We'll talk to you later. Thanks so much for tuning in on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Kuhn.